Imagine waking up, opening your phone, and for the first time in a decade, it has absolutely no idea what you want to see. No recommended for you, no people you may know, and definitely no next video autoplaying something you didn't even ask for. Following a global movement led by psychologists who argued that algorithmic manipulation was literally rewiring the human brain, governments have officially pulled the plug and banned recommendation engines entirely. Welcome back to Alternative Scenario, and today we're stepping into the absolute chaos of a world where the internet stops being a personalized mirror and starts being a giant, unorganized library. Are we about to regain our free will and discover a world of hidden gems, or are we going to starve for entertainment in a digital wasteland where you have to actually search for everything yourself? Let's find out if we're ready to survive the great algorithmic blackout. The immediate fallout would be a total collapse of the digital status quo, as the attention economy that fuels companies like TikTok, YouTube, and Netflix literally loses its engine overnight. Without an algorithm to serve you content, the internet becomes pull-only instead of push-based, meaning every single piece of media you consume must be intentionally sought out by typing into a search bar or following a direct link. We would see a massive 90% drop in daily screen time almost immediately, as the addictive infinite scroll disappears, replaced by static feeds that only show what you explicitly subscribed to in chronological order. For the average user, this means the end of the rabbit hole effect, but it also means the death of discovery, as you're no longer being introduced to new music, creators, or ideas that fall outside of your existing narrow bubble. Think about how much of your personality is actually just a collection of things an algorithm fed you because it knew you would click. If we kill the recommendations, we're not just changing our feeds, we're undergoing a massive identity crisis because suddenly nobody is telling us what's cool or what we should care about next. For the average user, the first week would feel like a digital detox on steroids, where you're staring at a blank search bar realizing you don't even know the names of the creators you've watched for years because they just appeared in your home feed. But here's where it gets complicated, because while we might get our attention spans back, we're also losing the discovery engine that allows a kid in a basement to go viral overnight. In this new world, if you aren't already famous or paying for massive billboard ads in the real world, you basically don't exist, turning the internet back into a playground for the massive corporations who have the budget to shout the loudest. On specific platforms, the impact would be catastrophic for the current business models, starting with TikTok and Reels, which would effectively cease to function as we know them. Without the For You page, these apps revert to simple video hosting sites where you only see content from people you already follow, leading to a massive stagnation of influence, where the top 1% of creators stay at the top forever and new voices are almost never heard. YouTube would transform back into a 2005-style archive, where related videos are replaced by strictly alphabetical or chronological lists, forcing users to rely on external curators, basically digital librarians or human influencers, to tell them what's worth watching. We would likely see a massive resurgence of old-school forums, RSS feeds, and word-of-mouth recommendations, as people desperately try to rebuild the social discovery that the machines used to handle for them. This creates a fragmented internet, where instead of one global conversation driven by a trending algorithm, we retreat into tiny, isolated digital villages where everyone only talks about the three things they already know they like. Think about how this would absolutely wreck your daily soundtrack, because suddenly that perfect Discover Weekly playlist that feels like it's reading your mind is just gone. You're basically forced back into the early 2000s, constantly asking everyone you know for music suggestions because you're stuck on a loop with the same 50 tracks you've had for years. It sounds nostalgic until you realize you've completely lost the ability to find new artists without an algorithm whispering in your ear. But the real kicker is the broader social shift, because while we always complain about algorithmic bubbles and polarization, the alternative might actually be a weird, forced consensus where only the loudest, most mainstream opinions can afford to reach your screen. We're trading a world where an AI chooses our bias for a world where a massive marketing budget chooses our reality, and I'm honestly not sure which one is actually more dangerous for our collective sanity in the long run. Beyond entertainment, the banning of recommendation algorithms would fundamentally break the modern e-commerce model, effectively ending the era of personalized shopping on platforms like Amazon or Instagram. Without customers who bought this also liked, the long-tail economy collapses, as niche products and independent sellers lose their only way to reach specific target audiences without spending a fortune on traditional advertising. This would likely lead to a massive Main Street resurgence, but in a digital sense, where human-curated newsletters and specialized review blogs become the new gatekeepers of what is worth buying, watching, or believing. Politically, the viral spread of radical ideas would slow to a crawl, potentially stabilizing society by removing the incentive for outrage-driven content, but also making it nearly impossible for grassroots movements or marginalized voices to organize and gain momentum against the established status quo. It is honestly wild to think about how much of our free will we have handed over to a line of code just because it is convenient to have someone else pick our movies and music. If we suddenly had to be our own curators, we would quickly realize that choice is actually a lot of work, and most of us are probably too lazy to handle it without a digital assistant. We would have to start talking to real people again just to find out what is worth our time, which might be the most terrifying part of this whole scenario for a lot of us. But maybe that is exactly what we need, to stop being passive consumers of a machine's choices and start being active participants in our own lives again, even if it means being bored for 5 minutes while we decide what to watch. In the long term, the absence of algorithms would likely lead to a massive intellectual great divide, where those who have the time and energy to manually curate their information become a new kind of digital elite. While the average person might struggle to find anything beyond the most basic mainstream hits, a specialized class of human tastemakers would emerge, running paid newsletters and private communities that act as the new gatekeepers of culture. This would turn the internet into a collection of isolated, high-quality hubs, requiring a level of critical thinking and effort that has not been seen since the early days of the web. Ultimately, we would find that while the addiction to the infinite scroll is gone, the cost of our new freedom is a world that is far more fragmented, where sharing a common cultural moment becomes nearly impossible because everyone is living in their own manually built reality. So here is the big question. Would you actually prefer a world where you are the only one choosing what to see, even if it means you are bored half the time? We spend so much time complaining about how the machines control our minds, but the moment they are gone, we would probably realize just how much work they were doing to keep us entertained. Maybe the real challenge is not banning the technology, but learning how to stay the master of the machine instead of just becoming its product. Let me know in the comments if you think you would survive a week without a personalized feed, or if you would be begging for the algorithms to come back by day 2. If you enjoyed this journey into the digital unknown, hit that like button and subscribe to Alternative Scenario for videos about the what-ifs that keeps us all curious. Thanks for watching, and I will see you right here in the next one.